Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our exposure today. This is Imran Abul Kashem, owner of Westend Photography, and with me always, Deborah. I think you introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. It's been a bit sort of wet and miserable here in Melbourne after such a beautiful, beautiful weekend. But anyway, business must go on, conversations must go on, and we must just keep going on. So tell me, Imran, how has your week been so far?
This is very excited week. Lots of things happening. In terms of next week is also like very exciting for me. You know, already we told like I'm gonna do a workshop in the weekend with the community center, and also you think you are also doing some exciting work as well. And then my presentation in a business group, like around 70 to 80 people, in front of 70 to 80 people presenting my business. I'm very excited about that. And lots of my friends, family member, and my business colleague, they will be there. And another project that I'm very excited about is I'm doing a judging for Werribee River Association. So they have annual they have organized a photography competition on the river. So many people participated, and I will be one of the judges for that. And this is very good initiative. I saw lots of beautiful photos of beautiful local photos. So I will be struggling to do the judge because too many beautiful photos.
Wow.
What about you?
That's awesome. Well, yeah. Like you said, I've got a presentation happening on Saturday for the community centre, which is absolutely awesome. And if you're interested in attending that, the link is on my Facebook page. So jump on there and register. This week has all been about learning new stuff. So I've been in a training course that actually our guest that's about to come on introduced me to, and it's been so many great takeaways. And definitely tools that I'll be implementing for Saturday and everything else I do moving forward. So learning, and I just want to put out there to everybody that Imran always challenges himself, right? So he put out a personal challenge to himself that he would have 80 people in our Zoom meeting for his presentation. I think you've exceeded that already, haven't you, Imran?
Close, and other thing look like sometimes my next level, I think it could be 100.
Yes, yeah. And just so everybody knows, our base starts at around 27 to 30 people that are there every week. So Imran has invited almost 50 odd people so far. So kudos off to you, Imran. That's absolutely awesome. Okay, so a little bit about me. Who am I? My name's Deborah. I am a life coach, empowerment mindset coach, and I work with career-driven people that have just, that they've sacrificed enough. And it doesn't mean you had to have had a corporate job. It just means that you've got drive. You know you want more, but you are just stuck, or you just can't move out of where you are right now. And I help you do that by building that impeccable mindset for success and life. So I'm about exposing you internally so that you can expose yourself externally. What about you, Imran?
So I also working with the exposure as well. So I am a photographer and specialized in headshot, personal branding, and commercial imagery. So my job is to empower people, like give them confidence in front of the camera and taking out their best. And also like they have to show their best to get like best shot from them. So this is I enjoying. I'm very excited to meet new people and taking their, like, most of the time people come to my studio and we don't know them, but after taking the photo session they become my friend. So that's the good thing. Okay, we're talking about lots about ourselves, but let's talk about our guest. We have an exciting guest today, and the best thing, I get someone who have a common interest. That's the cricket.
The cricket. Yes. All right, so let me just quickly tell you a little bit about Laban before we bring him on. So I met Laban probably, I think it's about a year ago now, and his story had just absolutely inspired me. So I'm so excited to bring him along to our talk today, and not to mention fellow Kiwi, so you're more than welcome, along with all our other guests that we've had. But let me just tell you a little bit about where Laban's come from, and so he has, and actually when I read his bio, I could sort of tend to think that he's part of a rock and roll band, because some of the things that he's had to overcome is sex, drugs, and alcohol, right? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, they say. So he has overcome those addictions, which is crippling him through his negative self-talk, and his transformation today has been amazing. Like I said, his story absolutely inspires me. And he did this all through his own self-discovery. He admits that it was a lot of hard work, but it has absolutely paid off. So, in fact, there's more to say, but I just really would like to bring him on and help so that he can share his story, because he's done this with not only hard work, but his relationship with food, which is where he inspired me with my journey around my food, gut health, losing weight and things like that. So let's bring him on. Thank you, Laban. Here he comes.
Welcome, Laban.
Imran, Deborah, thank you very much. Kia ora, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora.
I want to say what you are both doing is extraordinary, and you should be very proud. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. And as I mentioned, I got a cricketer, you are still with cricket. So we can talk whole night in cricket. We can watch whole night in cricket. So that's the power. So we have lots of energy. So Laban, just started. We love to start with why. Like you probably know the great book from Simon Sinek, starting with why. So if we say, what is your why to come in here in this position today? Like every time our why may be changed, but what is your why? That's I want to know.
Well, it's a really brilliant first question. I think it's something that for a long time I really struggled with, and I'm pleased to be able to report to you both and our wonderful audience that I finally figured it out. And it was through 39 years of bewilderment that I finally figured out that my purpose on this planet is to be the most influential motivational speaker on this planet. And for a long time, I knew that I wanted to speak, but I didn't have my why. And it was through the blessing of adversity that I was able to figure out what I was able to talk about. And that all started 5 years ago when I was lying in my bed on a Tuesday night in the middle of winter in Melbourne here, cold, miserable night. And I was gambling on a horse race in Hong Kong, in a country I wasn't even in, and I was spending money that was borrowed rent money. And I had about 3 bottles of red wine. And I looked down at my hands and I was like, my life is not supposed to be in this direction. And I knew that I was destined for much greater things than what I was achieving. And so I made a very brave call to ring the Gamblers Helpline and spoke to this extraordinary woman. Her name was Mary, like my Mary Magdalene, my guardian angel. And she was a 30-year counselor of the Gamblers Helpline. And she spoke to me about this incredible link between high rates of suicide and gamblers because of how quickly they can lose everything. And that scared the pants off me. And through that conversation, she put me in touch with the psychologist through the Salvation Army. And that started this journey that I've been on for the last 5 years. And there's lots more to talk about if you want to go into the more of the specifics, but that's the crux.
Wow, awesome. And I know Imran has a specific question he wanted to ask, so I'm actually going to leave it with him if you're ready to jump into that, Imran.
No, that's all good from me. I read your bio, and that's inspired me a lot, and also especially this time, in Australia. In this time, because of the recession, isolation, lockdown, lots of mental health issue, and some of the thing you already passed, and now people are facing that thing. So that, what could be like your suggestion? Like I want to go, I was thinking I'm going later on, but I want to know also, like, what could be your suggestion? And also the viewers, if you listen to it, if you have any question to Laban, feel free to ask. We will share with Laban. And if you have any question in terms of mental health, in terms of his journey, feel free to ask this question as well. So go. Sorry.
Well, look, and I am an open book, so you can ask me anything you want, and under the proviso that you're happy to hear the answer. And that's the philosophy that I've got in my life. I'm very open with my demons, my failings, my foibles, and I'm far from a perfect individual. I think perfection is an illusion, and I think the moment that you realize that, it's a very liberating, empowering experience. And I think to answer the specific part of like the mental health side of things, Imran, the biggest catalyst for me was beginning to understand myself better. And in the very first session that I had with the psychologist, she spoke about the link between escapism behavior and trauma experience via childhood. And for me, it was as innocuous as growing up as a child of divorce. And as I developed into an adult, I migrated from video games and humor to alcohol and drugs as my escapism tools. And it was when I started learning about how to manage those demons a lot better that I was able to start the healing process. And when I started healing, I started wanting to take care of myself better. And as I went further down that journey, I stumbled across a major change in my diet, which has had a profound effect on my mental health, something that Deb has experienced in some capacity herself. And so I'm, more than happy to explore that. But in terms of like just basic ways to improve your mental health, I think this little tidbit is really helpful. It helped me a lot. I interviewed a motivational speaker called Robin Banks from South Africa the other day. And he was talking about if you've got food, if you've got a roof over your head, and you drive a car, you are in a better position than 88% of the rest of the planet. And I think it's easy to forget, particularly when we're going through everything that's happening in the world at the moment. It's easy to get caught up in the news and the media and the negativity and the vitriol and a lot of the really passive-aggressive stuff that's out there at the moment. And I get sucked in from muted. Oh, we're back.
Sorry.
And so, that gratitude is the best attitude. It's a hell of a drug. And, as soon as you realize that the things aren't quite so bad and you got that positive thought in your mind, you're incapable of having a positive and a negative thought at the same time. So by default, you end up having a positive thought, and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the strongest message, isn't it? And it's gratitude, viewing and coming from a place of gratitude as consistently as you can will eventually become a habit. And the world looks very different when you come from that space. You're in the same place, but you're looking through a whole different set of lenses. So transformation, right? You've been through. Tell me, what's the first transformation that happened to you that then just kind of snowballed into everything else that came thereafter?
Ooh, I really think it was a self-respect for myself that I developed, which is not a tangible thing, I realize. But when I realized that in order for me to improve, I needed to start paying attention to my own needs and wants, and the Maslow's hierarchical needs. The second thing was gambling, which I knocked on the head in December of 2015. And as I healed more and more, I was able to remove the want to escape. And as I removed the want to escape, I removed the desire to seek this negative behavior. And so it actually was really easy for me to knock these things on the head. And I don't want it to diminish the hard work that went into it, but the actual act of knocking those demons on the head, especially drinking, which I just celebrated my 4th year of sobriety on August 26th, which is my fiance's birthday, which is a really great day for us to celebrate. It was easy. The hardest part initially was like getting my then circle of friends used to it.
Yes. So, actually, that's very interesting. So tell me, has your circle changed? Or
Completely.
Yes.
Completely. Now, this is not an opportunity for me to badmouth anyone. It's not what I'm saying at all. One of out of the 400 books that I've read over the last 4 years, a lot of them are on self-development, and a lot of them talk about the importance of surrounding yourself with people that fill your cup or lift you up or empower you or whatever. A lot of the reasons why I'm not, I suppose, with or spend a lot of time with the majority of my former circle of friends is because we don't have a lot in common anymore. A lot of them were drinking buddies. Some of them were much more than that, but we don't have a lot in common anymore. And I think what can happen when you do grow and you do develop and you do change, that can trigger a lot of people's own insecurities, and it makes them reflect on their own lives and can make them feel really awkward or icky. And so it's just easier to not be in that pain and not spend time with that person rather than it is to, have the bravery to jump into it and start confronting it. But everyone's on their own journey, and it's, they're not bad people. We're just on different wavelengths now.
Absolutely. I remember having my own experience of realizing that I had changed. And that was the reality for me, was because I still wanted very much those circle of friends, but I realized, I suppose I understood now why they were good friends through the lifestyle I was living in, because I was doing it really well, right? Go party every night. Yeah, I was at the top of the list. So I did that well. But then when I met my husband now, and he just introduced me into a space where you can have the same fun, you can do amazing things without so much alcohol. And when that started to happen for me, and I'm getting invited to parties left, right, and centre, and going, no, but why don't we go here and have dinner and a bottle of wine or something? What are you talking about? You're crazy. And I got a lot of my friends saying, oh, he's not good for you. But again, it was just on different wavelengths, and that was the first time I experienced and understood that there is a change of circle of life as you go on. So that's awesome. It is. It is right. It's and like you say, it shows up there. The reason that they kind of push back at you is because it's a bit of their insecurity, right? Everything we see outside of us is us.
Yeah.
So,
and one thing I'd say as well that I think is really important, I honestly haven't foregone anything. I'm not having less fun. I'm not socializing as much. Like, I'm not socializing as much. I'm doing the opposite of what you would think. I'm having way more fun. I've got way more energy, and I'm doing way less stupid things as well. Because 99% of all the stupid things I've ever done in my life have been while drunk or high. Usually a combination of the two, So it's having the courage to make that decision is the greatest one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life, because I feel like I use that saying a lot, but it's really important for people that are just like, oh, I'm worried about losing you'll bring the right people into your life that will help lift you up. And that's a really important message for those people out there watching at home.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a great message, I think. And also, like, I feel very interested from that point of your starting, like from the call to helpline to now, you start a business and you become an international speaker, accountability coach, and like you are an author as well. So how this from one phone call to now, what was the biggest struggle for you and how you overcome?
Well, I think when I finally loved who I was, when I finally truly accepted who I was, it allowed me to unlock whatever was trapped inside me. And I'm not religious, but I've become very spiritual. And I feel like whether we're living in a simulation in the Matrix or, whatever, that whoever is in charge of everything seems to reward us when we are brave and we make these leaps, and they reward you with inspiration, whatever way you want to look at it, right? Given what's happened in 2020, I think everything's on the table, right?
Absolutely.
But when I finally loved who I was, I started really caring about my health, my mental health, my physical health. I lost 60 pounds of weight. I started really looking after myself. And then I was able to meet someone who's my best friend and the most beautiful woman I've ever laid eyes on in the streets of Melbourne on a Thursday at 11 a.m. on my way to a meeting. And I had the confidence and the courage to walk up to her and say, "Excuse me, but you are stunning. And I wondered if you'd have a drink with me one time." And that was the culmination for me of what was then, 3.5 years of hard work.
Nice. So you actually started up a business during COVID? Your podcast?
Yeah. So I started a recruitment business at the start of 2019, which was an unmitigated disaster. And I use that word for effect only because it ended up being the greatest blessing in disguise, because it forced me into figuring out what my why was, as you kindly asked earlier. And I had everything all rearing to go. I had speaking engagements all booked in for March, and then COVID hit. And it was all wiped out. But I was battle hardened because of what had happened in the previous 12 months with the other challenges that I'd gone through. And I was like, bring it on, world. Bring it on. What do you got for me? So as a speaker, like, you want to be able to get your message out there. And so I created a podcast series called Become Your Own Superhero. And I created it with the concept that I was going to interview and speak to people that were further along than I, depending on what area, that had an authentic message to share, good and bad, of how they got to where they are in life and the lessons that we could take and to empower and inspire other people. And that has been the single most extraordinary thing that I've ever experienced and has changed my life.
Wow, awesome. That is, and because I followed your podcast. You've had some amazing people that you've interviewed. Les Brown, and so many more. And I see that you've got one coming up that I was telling my husband about. And he keeps saying to me, he goes, "How does Laban get those speakers?" And there was another one, I can't remember his name. He was Channel 7.
Peter Mitchell.
That was an amazing interview. Hearing his story was just, because everybody's story has a little bit of resonance of yours. And I just imagined being back at home on the country farm and what that's like. And that was unbelievable. So before I jump on to the next one, I just want to check, Imran, did you have something else?
I will ask one of the thing I was thinking. What is that? Cricket. So I will tell a funny story that makes lots of people laugh. Like when I came to Australia, when I'm thinking to migrate myself, my mom give me two options. Either you wanna go to UK or Australia. Which one you gonna decide? And that's like same thing to me. But that time I decide Australia because of cricket. Because Australia won World Cup that year. So that was my why to come to Australia. One of the reasons.
Isn't it amazing? What a great story! Like the impact that cricket has on the world, that it influenced the decision for a family to move to Australia as opposed to the UK. And I bet you're glad you did, Imran.
So, what is your relationship with cricket? And like you was a cricketer, and tell me more about your cricket journey.
Well, I still play. I'm an active member of Melbourne University Cricket Club. Been playing there for 15 seasons now, and we're hoping to get on the park at some point this year. But and I just turned 40 in June, which is not very commonplace in Premier Cricket to be still playing. But to be competitive as well playing. And I love it. And my role's changed now, Imran, Deb. I now captain a side, and I've got the fourth 11. And it goes 4-3-2-1, obviously. And the fourth 11 is really the feeder grade to the higher grade. So it's where the young men, and I'm talking as young as 14, come into the side. So round one last season, the average age of my whole team, including me at 39, was 21 years of age.
Wow.
And so I now have this responsibility to be a good role model to these men, between 14 to sort of 18 is the age. And so now, as a reformed everything addict, I now have a bit of credibility because I can say that I've gone and done it. And here's what happened. Here's why I don't do it. I certainly don't preach to the boys. They ask me lots of questions. I've got a lot of life experience that I can pass on, but I absolutely adore it. And I think cricket is one of those games, one of those sports that attracts a certain type of personality. And because of the nature of the game, it forces people to collaborate. And the cricketing community, Melbourne University, I largely attribute to saving my life, really, because if I didn't have the structure and the positive influence from the club from during those really dark periods of my life, I don't know what would have happened. So, yeah, I'm a big fan. I want to keep playing as long as I can, and yeah, I'm very grateful for especially Melbourne University. So shout out to the boys.
Awesome! Wow.
Another reason is coming to Melbourne because, like in my childhood, we don't know anything else Melbourne. We only know MCG.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing for Melbourne is famous for lots of stuff, but in my childhood, I don't think we don't have that many access. But we know Melbourne has a big cricket ground, and that's famous. So.
Well, before you die, Imran, see if you can book in and do some training underground. They've got the indoor cricket set up for where the players train. I've had the privilege to train there a few times through the club, and it's a pretty spine-tingling experience. So I highly recommend it.
Wow, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that there was more to it.
It's an underground bunker. It's amazing, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So I wanted to share my experience about how, when I first met Laban, and we had met through in town. We'd met through a networking event, and we made that instant connection because we were both from the homeland, and
you're a sparkling personality. Well done.
Thank you. But we just got talking, and then he told me his story, which I was just encapsulated on, and we'd discovered that we had read this book, the same book, Codependence, and got talking, and I think we caught up again, and then Laban explained to me more and more about one of the things that he was doing around his health and took me right back to the origins, which made absolute sense to me. And I remember leaving that conversation just going, what if it can work for me? Because he said to me, you can get to your ideal weight within, he goes, this is looking at 6 months. And I'm going, I've been doing this for 10 years, Laban. But I took up the challenge personally myself. I actually didn't tell Laban because I was unsure about how committed I was going to be. So I had to have that mental argument with myself, that debate that just went on and went on. And I actually started in October last year. Then, the season comes, the festive season comes, and it's like, there's this and that. So I actually had, over that Christmas period, put on weight, which actually took me up to one of my most scariest times, because it was the heaviest I'd ever gotten. And I just went, right, okay, I've got to try this. So I followed, and we had one conversation, and it was pretty easy. So I followed that, and within the first 8 weeks, I saw a dramatic change and in myself. And I just thought, okay, this is working, and I kept going. Now, what I've done is only probably 2% of really what more and more Laban goes into. So I just wanted to ask you, Laban, to sort of go into a bit more about what you've been doing around this whole health cycle, what you put into your body, all that sort of stuff. So I'd love for you to just drop a bit of gold to our listeners and our viewers. And I know that you will inspire them the way that you inspired me.
Well, Deb, you're watching the change, the physical change and the mental change in you over this journey has been extraordinary, and I'm super duper proud that you've been able to experience this, and I love talking about this. You'll see here I've got the carnivore. What happened was, during my whole health journey, I used to suffer for 17 years with GERD, gastrointestinal reflux disorder. And what that is it is horrendous heartburn. Pretty much no matter what I ate, I would get this horrendous heartburn. And I was on medication for it, and 20 different medical professionals over the course of the 17 years, and 2 surgeons, 2 endoscopies, cameras down the gullet, all said the same thing. You've got an incurable autoimmune disease. Just deal with it. And I watched one podcast with Chris Kresser, a functional medicine doctor, talk about the link between gluten and heartburn. And I went, well, I wonder if that's me. And I cut it out, and it started to go away. And I was like, what else are they wrong about? So I went down this whole rabbit hole, and by process of elimination, I had to cut out plants out of my diet for a period of nearly 2 years. So I was eating almost, I'd be lying if I said 100%, because ice cream's got sugar in it, which is a plant, and chocolate. But I was eating about 97, 98% animal protein, mainly red meat, beef, chicken, fish, seafood, cheese, cream, butter, lard, everything that you were told is going to kill us and send us to a grave. And my body fat percentage, when I first did it, at the time went from 14.4% to 8.4% in 3.5 weeks, verified by biometric scales. And in the process, because I'd been so anal retentive about keeping an eye on my blood work and my cholesterol, my general health over the last decade, I've got all these wonderful records of what my health used to look like. And then now I'm able to compare them. And every single doctor that I show my results to high fives me or is just flabbergasted. And I even got a scan on my heart the other day. I got a CAC scan. It's a calcium artery scan, which is the gold standard for predicting cardiovascular events like having heart attacks. It's amazing at seeing whether you've got any calcification around your heart and the blood vessels. They talk about the widowmaker heart attacks that, seemingly healthy people just have, and then they die. and I got a 0 from eating the fattiest cuts of meat available on the planet. And a 0 is the best score you can get, by the way. So that's it. I've been eating animal protein, and the side effects have been nothing short of extraordinary.
Absolutely. And how that must make you feel to know, after getting that result back, that it's, you never have to, well, you don't need to worry about that. It's one more thing that you just don't need to worry about. But yes, you know, when people know what I'm doing around the carnivore and what I'm eating, they're like, and it's a real mind shift, isn't it? Because these are the foods that we were told would kill us. You eat too much of this, and you know, it's going to cause the heart attacks. And here you are with proof of eating, you know, those foods, and now you got a 0, you know, the most minimal chance of it ever happening to you. So it's an absolute mind shift, isn't it? And it's challenging, I'm sure, to the industry. And you've interviewed a few people on this as well, haven't you?
So this is the great thing, Deb. The podcast has been so wonderful because I'm not an expert in this area, and we are told and led to believe that a lot of what we are eating and is the right thing to do. And it, unfortunately, through process of elimination and surrounding myself with the most intelligent people on the planet in these particular areas of expertise, most of it's actually based on misinformation. Some of it deliberate, some of it just by proxy. And, you know, a lot of people might be watching this and saying, yeah, it's working for you. It's not just working for me. It's working for a whole subculture of people. Anyone that suffers from any kind of digestive gut health issues, autoimmune, eczema, asthma, joint pain, arthritis, psoriasis, diverticulitis, you know, hemorrhoids, like anything that involves your internals, it's prolific. And it's really simple because it's a really effective just elimination protocol. And you just eliminate all the crap that we're not supposed to eat, and then you reintroduce to see what you can tolerate. People would have heard about FODMAP and that kind of thing. Some of the people I've interviewed are professors, doctors that are experts in these areas of cholesterol. I've had forage agronomists on, which specialize in educating people on how sustainable it is to be able to eat like this and use carbon sequestration to be able to, you know, eliminate the carbon footprint, and a lot of the data surrounding what animals actually creates incorrect. You know, people that are specialists in doing research around how plant-based diets have come to be mainstream in our diet, which are largely based off the early to mid 1800s from Seventh-day Adventism, which has infiltrated our dietary guidelines, but also the medical guidelines. And I realize this stuff is probably triggering a lot of people, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's the truth doesn't care about our feelings, and that's the thing I love about this. And I'm not so dogmatic that I'll never change my mind. If I know that I'm doing something wrong, I'll absolutely pivot, and I've had to do that a few times. But for the most part, I absolutely know that I'm on a winner, and I base that on how I feel and how I look and how I am.
Yeah. And Imran's been on a very similar journey where he also, again, because like I said right in the beginning, he loves to challenge himself, but he set himself a challenge to lose X amount of weight. And again, we do that by eliminating certain types of foods. And that is the starting point. And if you just want to go into a bit more, you know, if you want to do your own research and go into it a bit more, you can just keep that process. Because sugar is, you know, cutting out sugar, those heavy carbohydrates is always where every diet starts.
Yeah. And I'm unloading really 4 years of research and literally thousands of hours of podcasts, countless reading. You know, I've interviewed 55 people on the podcast, and I'd say 2/3 of them are involved in this whole area of interest. So I'm bombarding our poor guests with lots of information, and it can be a very overwhelming thing. But you touched on it, Deb. Best thing you can do to start: cut out sugar and cut out refined carbohydrates. And something that people probably don't realize as well is to remove seed oils, vegetable oils. The name is very misleading. They are one of the worst things we can put in our bodies. And as soon as you start moving that stuff, you'll start feeling better. And as you become more in tune with your body, then you can start honing and dialing in what you can tolerate.
Yeah.
That's a great tips, Levin. And I feel like when I cut off the carbohydrate and the fat, I feel better and energetic and like no much laziness. I think that's the we call like the rich food, but it's not rich.
Yeah.
So in terms of the health. So I would like to ask you one question that I was thinking about. So you have done lots of achievement. You become an international speaker, a coach, and you are an author as well. What is your goal for next 5 years? Where you see yourself in next 5 years or 10 years? Do you have any destination?
Well, if I could transport my camera into the other room, I could point to the big whiteboard that I've got my 5-year plan on there, actually, Imran. My goal, I am going to be the most influential motivational speaker on the planet.
Awesome.
That's my goal. And within 5 years, I need to look at it exactly what the achievements are, but that it involves some financial goals, some financial freedom as well. Another area of my life I've had to wrap my head around to become comfortable bringing abundance into my life. It has some family goals with having some kids with my fiance. We'll, get married by then, assuming we're out of lockdown, and living. We've got an idea of the house we want to be in. There's a few different things in there as well. I think I've got a weight goal. I've got a VO2 max goal as well, which is a blood oxygen, so how fit I am. And yeah.
Awesome. That is amazing. And I love the way that you said it. I am. And that's the difference between goal setting, isn't it? It's not a plan, it's a I am. And with even with the work that I do, getting people to step into their future goal as though it's here today, they struggle with that concept. It's like, but I'm not. And it's like, yeah, but you can be. You can be. That is the point. If you are a I am, then that's exactly what you'll be. So that's awesome. Well, Laban, we could talk and talk and talk like we do when you and I catch up. But I just want to say thank you so much for allowing us to have your time. And I think, Imran, we got in at the right time because he'll be way out of our paycheck, but next time we speak to him.
I'll never forget the people at the early stages that supported me and backed me, and I'm absolutely blown away and super duper grateful that you've invited me on to share with you. I get a real kick out of being able to do this, and this is the great thing about figuring out what your why is and what your purpose is. This doesn't feel like work anymore. And that's something that I'm so stoked about.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like work anymore.
Good stuff.
It was a great conversation with you, Levin. And some people maybe wants to contact with you or so how people can contact with you? So if you can tell the way, it could be your Facebook page or website or any other way, or are you running any event, this upcoming event that people can join? So if you can.
Look, all the links to everything is at labanditchburn.com. It's really funny, Imran. I had a conversation with a friend of mine today. We were talking about the possibility of eliminating all social media and wondering whether we could still achieve our goals without it. And there was a gentleman that whose name she referenced, who's a computer scientist. He wrote a book called Be So Good They Can't Ignore You, which is a famous Steve Martin quote. So I'm just tossing out the idea whether social media is serving me or hindering me at the moment. So, but certainly the website, labanditchburn.com. I'd love to hear from anyone that would like to know more.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Laban. It has been such a pleasure to have you with us.
Ka kite ana.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
So it was a great conversation, and I'm very impressed of his journey from a gambler, drinker, to a motivational speaker, and like international motivational, and he wants to be the best motivational speaker in this art. So that's a great thing, and if you have the passion, I think you can go there. So
absolutely, and you know his absolute certainty. It's already there. It's already happened, right? He's going to get there, and that's just that is absolutely awesome. So, as always, every time we get somebody on, that we just get so engrossed and we soak up so much time. So we'll wrap this up pretty quickly. As Imran always says, we love feedback. We would like to know what you love, hate. It's that whole thing. What do we keep doing? What do we stop doing? And what do we add in? We'd love to get your feedback. If you've got any questions, if you're watching this on the replay, just drop them in, and we'll make sure that we get them to Laban and get you some responses from that. Next week, who's our speaker next week? Are we ready to announce?
Next week we have an amazing personal. She is with yoga, and she is a mindful course. So we will see. We can do some yoga in this Zoom.
Nice.
So we will let you guys know on Monday and finalize. But I think she's she's motivated me a lot. So I think the viewers, you will also motivate from her as well.
Awesome. Sounds great. All right. Well, you have a good rest of the week to everybody out there. You too, Imran, and see you next week.
See you next week, everyone. See ya. Have a great week.